You trained hard all off season. You're bigger, faster, stronger. And now the season starts. Practices are every day, competitions happen weekly, and most athletes start getting worse as the season progresses. Last week we discussed why you should continue lifting in season. Today we're going to break down how to do it. We must first understand the 3 goals of in-season strength conditioning training, and these are in order of importance. The primary goal is to perform better at your sport. That means most of your time is spent practicing the skills and being fresh enough to perform well in competition. Secondly, we must at least maintain the physical qualities that were built up in the off-season. You don't want to be slower and weaker by the end of the year. Only once 1 and 2 have been satisfied should you worry about improving your physical abilities like strength and speed. Improving takes a lot more volume and overall training stress than maintaining. And with increased practices and games, you just might not have the recoverability to train for improvement. Before building your program, you must also understand the constraints. What makes training in season different for different sports or even individual athletes? The biggest difference between sports is game schedule. A sport like football is really easy. The team plays 1 game a week on the same day every single week all year. You can easily set up which days you lift and sprint on and keep that the same all year long. Other sports like basketball have more chaotic schedules, where you might play 1 game this week and 3 games the next week on completely different days. You can't lock into a fixed schedule. You have to adjust weekly while considering the 3 primary goals: sport performance, physical maintenance, then physical improvement. One more thing to consider is what muscle groups are most used in that sport. You might be fine as a soccer player to do your upper body training the day before a game, whereas training the lower body is going to impact performance in that sport much more. The differences between individuals largely come down to athlete level. Is someone a beginner or more advanced? Your training program can be very similar for each level, but the intent changes. Beginners need to focus more on technique and consistency, intermediates can push the intensity more, and advanced athletes need flexibility and auto-regulation. Now, where most athletes and coaches mess this up is in the program design. The first rule here is your program shouldn't look completely different from the off-season. You should use similar exercises, training splits, warm-ups, etc. In-season just isn't the time to experiment. The most important adjustment, and the one thing you need to take away, is we lower volume while keeping intensity high. To lower fatigue, we lower the training volume, decreasing sets, number of training days, or some combination of those 2. My go-to split for athletes in season is 1 day of speed, 1 day upper body, and 1 day lower body. Lower volume to 50 to 70% your off-season training. Intensity, though, does stay high. You need to be sprinting and lifting heavy to maintain adaptations or even improve. Lifts shouldn't be pushed to absolute failure, but keeping sets between an 8 and 9 out of 10 difficulty is appropriate. At a minimum, your program needs some sprints or jumps, a squat, hinge, push, and a pull. That means a full program can be as simple as 5 exercises. Here's an example. Lower body day, sprints, 4 times 60 meters, done while fresh. Back squats, 4 sets of 5, RDLs, 4 sets of 5. Upper body, bench press, 8 sets of 5, superset with pull-ups for 8 sets of 5. Sprints can also be done on a separate day if that works better for you. And you could do 4 sets on the upper body day and then add in an overhead pressing and rowing variation for another 4 sets. You can also use 1 to 2 accessory movements as needed, depending on the individual or sport, like for your shoulders, knees, back, etc. It really is that simple as a starting point, and the key adjustments aren't too complex either. For game-heavy weeks, the following adjustments work well. Only do 2 hard sets of each exercise, either spread out into 2 different days or do lower and upper on the same day, whichever fits your schedule better. Lower intensity slightly, to about a 7 out of 10 difficulty. This keeps priorities in order, perform well in competition, and maintain physical qualities. Improving qualities just isn't a focus during these weeks. Adjustments based on skill level is also pretty simple. Beginners and intermediates should add weight on a regular basis and aim to improve throughout the season. While more advanced athletes need a specific program too. They need some control over when to push hard and dial things back. They are handling heavier weights and likely have a more important role with the team's performance. A 9th grader who weighs 140 pounds and never sees the field can push hard and build. The senior who plays all game and squats 500 pounds needs to be able to pull back and be ready for competition. A bonus tip for reducing fatigue and decreasing time in the gym is to pick exercise variations that are less taxing and take less time to warm up and set up for. Some examples are doing RDLs instead of deadlifts, dumbbell bench instead of barbell bench, and split squats over regular back squats. You get a great stimulus without as much fatigue. As a final check, avoid these 3 mistakes. Overcomplicating the training. You don't need to hit every possible exercise or angle that is good for you. Some things get left behind to focus on the sport and main drivers of performance. Trying to be completely fresh. There will be games when you or your athletes just aren't 100% because they needed to get their strength training in the day before. For big conference games or the playoffs, yes, be as close to 100% as possible. But for a normal Wednesday game the 3rd week of the year, get your work done. Off that, training is too hard. While a little soreness is fine, even for games, your team shouldn't be limping around on sore legs constantly and feel beat up and fatigued. Planning for proper recovery is a huge part of this as well. In-season training isn't complicated if you understand the priorities. Sports skills first, physical maintenance second, and physical improvement when able. Keep it simple and stay consistent, because over the long term, that's what leads to better athletes and better performance.